Welcome to On the Table, a podcast about board games, card games, and tabletop war games. Welcome back to episode 87 of the On the Table Gaming Podcast, and we are hot off the heels of Gencon Online, Gencon 2020, where we had a Greatest Song of Ice and Fire panel, and then there was an after party. So thanks to everyone who showed up for that. And today I'm joined by Josh. Josh, welcome back on the podcast.
How's it going, Chase?
It's going pretty well. I know we're still over in COVID land here. I think I've started this podcast for months now saying that. What have you been up to? Have you been getting any painting in, doing any hobby stuff, squeezing it in between work?
You know, I have been dabbling a little bit in the dreaded Games Workshop realm. I bought a little bit of Kill Team.
Oh yeah.
So
a little bit can go a long ways for that game, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's a skirmish style game. So it's like, a handful of miniatures. But of course, what is funny is Games Workshop is still very much in this like old school business model where they like make you buy the books and in some cases multiple books to have all the rules and everything else. So coming from Song of Ice and Fire, where like all of that stuff is like freely available online. There's like really easy to use list builders. Like there is no like online list builder that works for Games Workshop. It's like you have to like own the book and then look at the list builder, and they don't give you any of the stats because that would be like giving away their money, which is just like kind of annoying. But it's a cool game. It's a lot of the miniatures are still a lot of fun to assemble and paint.
One of the things that's really cool about this game is that the miniatures are pre-assembled, and so we got to see some of those miniatures at Gen Con. Mm-hmm. It's exciting to see what's coming up in the future here. I'm actually stoked. People probably can suspect why, but let's maybe ease into it here. Not jump into the coolest thing, but we'll look at some really cool stuff. So we did see some of the sculpts for House Stark, and the House Stark expansion is coming with the alt sculpts for the Sworn Sword Captain, alts for the Umber Champion, alt for the Cranaming Warden. We've got the Mormont Veteran, which we saw like a subject to change version at the CMON Expo, where she gives the unit hardened. Each time this unit is attacked after defense dice are rolled for each of its destroyed ranks, it automatically blocks one additional hit. So we know these cards are probably going to change up a little bit, but that's a pretty good defensive piece. We got the Cranaming Survivalist and then the Winterfell Guardian. What do you think of these sculpts?
I mean, the sculpts are outstanding. I like especially, I don't know which one's which. Is the Winterfell Guardian the mounted unit?
Yes, I believe so.
That guy is outstanding looking. I would love to know more about what exactly he does, but this is such an interesting thing that like we haven't really had mounted attachments come in boxes yet. I know that like mounted attachments exist in like the Targaryens, but I'm super excited. Well, I guess we have
Brendan Tully, you got the Mountain of Rides, the Kickstarter exclusives.
Right, so you can't play any of that stuff in tournaments. Like, I mean, we've played with it because we're Kickstarter backers, but like a lot of people don't have access to that stuff. I mean, it'd be really coult to see what this guy.
The other thing is that the Umber Champion over there far on the left. For listeners at home, we're looking at these slides from Gen Con 2020. The alt sculpt for the Umber Champion. I mean, he looks phenomenal, and I think that's actually the art from the art book. So these alt sculpts, like we have seen these pictures before. So Simon, you've been keeping secrets for us for over 3 years since the Kickstarter, and now we're starting to see these. That's crazy to see like how long maybe in their development cycle some of this stuff is.
Yeah. No, I definitely dig the sculpts. I mean, I think the Umber Berserker guy he's just got like a pretty sweet pose. The only thing is he doesn't have his bear thing over his head.
Sometimes it falls back. You gotta.
Umber champion.
He just, he can't. He's got two axes in his hands. It's really awkward to be like. He's got to be like, hey, buddy, can you like pull my hood up for me? I don't want to axe myself.
Yeah.
It's like Wolverine, right? Trying to like open doors and stuff, and you got these giant claws or axes in your hands. It's just unwieldy.
Now we don't know what the Cranagman survival.
No, we don't.
Right.
So that
is he like the one like crawling through a small bush, or is it the guy with that pointy stick?
Yeah, I thought it was the guy with the crawling through the bushes with like the backpack and stuff. Because the other guy, I feel like the cloak looks a little bit more like a warden, but I don't know. The warden's got like a broomstick or something, or like a cross stick. What's he got there? Is that a trident?
Well, I think it's one of those like it's like the same spear that Mira has, right? She has one of those like frog spears or whatever. It's like the 3-pronged.
Sorry, lacrosse stick. What am I talking about here? Gosh,
it could be. I mean, if you put a little net in there, you could do a little kit bash.
Yeah, a little custom. Somebody out there's got to do that. Make the Stark sports team where they're all like their sports apparel and
when he's got that dagger, he's like hiding, sort of. He's ready to roll.
Yeah, man, the sculpts look. This looks again. There's an axe on it. They're so detailed,
Totally.
and I think it's cool to see. So this is Big Child's creative, or the people that actually do the sculpts that sculpt them. They're really just knocking it out of the park, and I'm excited. Maybe the most to have alternate sculpts so that you can have a little bit more variety in your units.
Totally,
I think starting with the Starks, the sculpts for single mold miniatures, like these, you're not assembling these pre-assembled miniatures, I should say. The quality of the sculpts have always been great, but I do think the starter set, Starks vs. Lannister, I think those are the most basic miniatures out of the range, right? Those are the first to come out and be released. And I think adding some more variety to those, the sworn swords and things like that, it helps spice things up.
I think technically the Stark Bowmen are probably the most basic sculpts.
Yeah, those are the ones. I mean, they're still good, but they are. Yeah, that's not the most fun unit to paint.
But you could totally pepper these in. With like if you have Umbers, like, and you just want to like spice things up. There's no reason you can't just throw like a couple of these guys in with the rank and file too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're getting. Yeah. Are there two of each of these in the box? Is that what's happening, except for the horse?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Totally.
Actually, I don't know if that's confirmed.
Oh, all right.
That's what I was thinking, though. That's what my assumption was. But
yeah,
I have to go back
and show it that way. I would assume that.
Yeah, you're right. That must be it. If we're wrong, whoopsie.
That's okay.
And then we also have the Lannister attachment box. Same thing goes here, right? And we got another mounted attachment, which is awesome. The Clegane Butcher. And Chanel on his podcast talked about how he would have this ability, Sophia. And we did see at CMON Expo a reveal of this. But some of these things have changed since then. And, disclaimer, they may be subject to change still. So he has an order Sophia. When an enemy engaged with this unit fails a panic test, one other enemy within long range of that unit must make a panic test. And he's got weaken resolve. When an enemy engaged with this unit fails a panic test, that enemy becomes weakened. So it's always great to get those weakened tokens out. And he's a 2-point attachment. So, anytime you're putting out panic tests in a Lannister army, especially if you're going with your classic kind of Lannister supremacy, like that's great. That's you can get a lot of value out of that.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I love not to like harp on it, but the mounted attachment here is so sweet looking.
The folds and the fabric.
Yes. He looks awesome.
Yeah. I mean, all of these look just phenomenal. So we've got the alt sculpt for the guard captain, the assault veteran, the champion of the faith. And then we've got this sentinel enforcer and turncoat. And Chanel on his podcast, the song chat, you guys got to make sure you check it out if you haven't been. He mentioned that this would be a 1-point attachment with the order taunt. When an enemy within short range that has line of sight of this unit activates, the enemy must make a morale test. On a failure, it must declare a charge action against this unit if able. So throwing Cersei out there, you can start to set up these force charges and really start to bog people down in units like guardsmen.
Yeah.
Or your halberdiers.
Yeah, exactly. I think I think that's a perfect example. It's like either forcing them to charge into the front of the halberdiers, or just taking like a really expensive unit and just saying, well, you're going to be stuck fighting these guardsmen for the next couple turns because they're just going to hang around. So I think that's a pretty good attachment. Hard to top the guard captain in the guardsman though, but
that's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, as someone who's played Then a bit, short range taunt is very, very difficult to pull off. But when you do, like, you feel like a boss. You're like, yeah, like you pull someone off an objective, or, that's amazing. And then we get the Lannister turncoat. And so revealed also on Song Chat, start of any turn once per game, deal 1 wound, gain 1 condition token, and cannot be targeted by tactics cards or use an order ability. So it's something you put in an opponent's unit. So you put it in their unit, kind of like the maimed hostage Jaime.
Gotcha.
We don't really know when that happens, if it happens like before or after deployment. It's a 2-point attachment. And then at any turn, once per game, you can do a wound to the unit, can gain a token, and then it cannot be targeted by tactics cards or use order abilities. So it kind of just messes up one unit.
And it's an infantry attachment, I would assume.
Yeah, infantry. So I don't know. What do you think of mechanics like that, where you're throwing stuff in other people's units?
I love stuff like that. I mean, I love like Jock and Hagar, like the Stark version. Like when you kill the unit, you can go kill an NCU. I mean, that's outstanding. I don't think we've ever really used the maimed hostage very often, but I still think it's a cool mechanic that you can do. I wonder Yeah, I mean, how valuable is it? Is it 2 points worthy to do that? I don't know. Maybe if they're really relying on like one unit to like that's a big commitment for like one time ever. But that could be
2 points to turn the tide on a specific turn, or is the threat of it like enough where you're like, I know it's coming up on like the big game turns, like, and I need this to work. I better watch out because there's a turn code in my unit.
Yeah, well, I mean, one thing is like one turn is still like that's like a a sixth of the game.
And really, because turn one, you're like jockeying for position, so it's really like a 5-turn game.
Yeah, I mean, it's like people forget that like the number of turns in an actual game is very little. So this is like, think about it like maybe a quarter or 20% of the total game. You're able to like shut off a unit and deal a wound to it. I think it's also like, and when do you do it? Is it at the beginning of the turn or
start of any turn once per game?
Okay, so you could even do it, when it's about to be their turn, right? Start of any turn, and you can just say, okay, well, these guys have one guy left, and I can knock them down a rank by killing a guy and do it. Like you can.
You're not gonna like, buff them with a tactics card, and they're weakened, so they're not gonna actually hit me.
Yeah, and you're disabling something that's got like really relies on a lot of like critical abilities, right? So maybe like if you're playing against, say, what are they called? The honor guard, the King's Guard, the King's Guard. Yeah, like them, or like the Champions of the Faith. Like some of these guys that really have like a ton of like synergistic abilities. Just being able to shut all that off is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm interested to see. It'd be fun to kind of mess around with, and I'll probably pick up a bunch of these attachment boxes just to like add a little bit more diversity to the game. Mm-hmm. And then we also have the Baratheons, and the Baratheons. I know you've been waiting for all your Baratheon goodness with your Stag Knights and everything. Well, check out the alt sculpt on the Dragonstone Noble. So this was previously called the Lord of Dragonstone, but that name has since changed. Mm-hmm. It's got an Order Sentinel. After another unit within long range is attacked, this unit make a free charge or maneuver action. If charging, it must target the attacking enemy. The range on that, I don't know if that's changed or not. I'm trying to remember what the... I know this card is subject to change, and I'm not sure if it has changed. But, I mean, a unit gets attacked, you get to make a free charge or maneuver action. Those slow cavalry with their movement of 4, that's super helpful for them.
100%, yeah. And this is another awesome sculpt for sure.
We also got the Stag Knight Noble, which is down there on the end with a beautiful hat. Got his antler still.
Yeah.
You got the alt sculpt for the Master Warden. That's actually pretty cool. I kind of like that one with the hammer down.
I love that. I love that sculpt. Of all of them here, there's a lot of good ones, but I think that one's my favorite.
And then we've got the alt sculpt for the Red Priestess. She's kind of holding that stick out to the side, burning.
Yep.
And then the most intriguing one might be the Highgarden Pikeman Captain.
Yes. So some pikemen are coming.
Yeah, and I wonder what that might be. I mean, I'm assuming... So Highgarden would be with the Renly side then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They've got a lot of those like growing strong or, I guess even the base tactics that's like Stag's Resilience where they can heal up wounds. Mm-hmm. That's going to be really good with like I'm envisioning like a Lannister Halberdier style unit with like maybe set for charge. And so being able to heal up easily. Oh, heck, gosh, I'm forgetting Ours is the Fury. After a friendly combat unit is attacked but not destroyed with melee, the unit make a free melee attack targeting the attacker. You could get charged, set for charge, Ours is the Fury, and then activate and make your regular attack. That could be heinous.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, well, that's the whole thing about the Baratheons, right? They have all those cards that are just about punishing and counterpunching. So I think that could be a really useful unit. Did we talk about the other one too? Yeah, I was going to say
Thornguard Sentinel.
Yeah, that's another cool sculpt. I like the pose quite a bit.
Yeah, with the butter, it's like with the buttery color on there. It's like it looks almost like an Assassin's Creed style pose or something. I mean, the sculpts are just, man, so good.
They've gotten really good for sure.
And then we got the Night's Watch attachment box. So alt sculpt for the Watch Captain, the Recruiter, the Hardened Ranger, the Senior Builder, or as the community calls him, Senior Builder, and then the Watch Marshal.
Yes. Is the Senior Builder, is that the chunky fella?
Yes, with the hammer down. So he gets to put out a set of stakes on the table. So he can, once per game, I think, put out a terrain piece that gets in the in the way. You put a spiked terrain piece down near your unit, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's
so you can start to like
neat
mold
ability.
the terrain.
And I like the mounted. I mean, man, every time I'm saying the same thing, but the mounted sculpt here is pretty awesome looking.
Right? I mean, God.
Is that the so who's the and which one is the one in the middle there? The sword pointing and the cape flowing in the breeze.
But that must be the watch captain, right?
Yeah, he looks awesome. That's another.
Because the
really
recruiter's on the far left. Then we got he's watch, and so that guy with the ninja, that's the hardened ranger.
I'm not a big fan of the ninja. I think.
You're not a fan of the ninja? How can that be?
I mean, it looks like Shinobi in the middle, and the one on the end. Like, why does the recruiter have like is it like a cat of nine tails or like a morning star or something?
You gotta whip those recruits and be like, you guys, you're bad people.
You're join up, guys, or you're getting whipped.
I thought at first it was like a bouquet of flowers, maybe.
Like a wealthy bouquet of flowers.
And it's like, I'm a scorned lover, and I've joined the Night's Watch. As a free folk player, I have to, make some comments with the Night's Watch. So that's when my digs are going to the recruiter.
Yeah, it's just kind of it's like sort of like a it's very like a limp sort of like mace or something. I just the pose for that one doesn't grab me.
Yeah, that one maybe doesn't speak to me, I guess I might say, but all the other ones I think are out of the park.
Yeah, I like the chunky guy the best.
Yes, Senior Builder.
The
one thing that is devastating is there are no free folk attachment boxes here. They did not reveal that for them. So sadness. We'll have to maybe wait and see. CMON Expo is this upcoming weekend. Maybe they'll reveal them then. I don't know, but
do you not have enough good attachments yet? Is that?
Listen, man, you can never have enough good attachments for the free folk.
How much is this? -5 points. What does it do? Oh,
they also revealed the neutral Stormcrow dervishes. We'd seen them before. The sculpts are amazing.
Yeah,
we know what the unit does, but like, wow, those guys look great. Almost enough to make me wish there was coin beyond the wall, because I would maybe take a pack of these guys. Plus, they're like crazy with their free maneuvers jumping around. But now we get into the big stuff here, right?
Oh yeah.
So we got Greyjoys, House Greyjoy sculpt. Now we had seen the stat card for the Ironborn Reavers, but now we get to see the sculpts. And, the Ironborn Reavers, these guys, first off, like, look at the banner. It's like a squid banner. It's
I was
so
about
cool.
to say, that's the best detail on the whole thing is the squid banner.
And you got these big hardy guys with their like Norse, like Viking style helmets on, their big beards. It looks like they got like necklaces or like braided beards that look almost like tentacles on the front of some of the helmets. And they're double wearing axes in like combat poses.
Yeah, they're very they kind of got like a Viking, even more so Viking than like the Umber Berserkers. And the guy who's like right next to the banner, I'm assuming that's like whatever the captain attachment would be. Like that guy looks awesome.
The eye slits are like a little bit more narrow on his helmet.
Yeah, and he's kind of like looking down a little bit.
Yeah, he's got like this menacing look.
Yeah,
this is amazing. And you're gonna paint him in these like kind of the unit card is that kind of like tealy dark green, and these guys would just look so cool with their cloaks that way. Like these are gonna be such a joy to paint up.
Yeah, 100%.
And then we got the House Greyjoy House Harla Reapers. These guys have these crazy sickles. Also cool banner, not as cool as the squid one, but
it's not.
I wonder what we're gonna see for these guys as far as units. So I don't know. I'm assuming it's gonna be offensively oriented.
Yeah, I mean maybe like similar to like great axes or something like that. Like we've seen two-handed weapon specialists, right? So maybe it'll be like them, or maybe like the Night's Watch basic unit there. I mean, it could be some of that kind of stuff, critical blow.
Yeah, that would make sense. And so maybe they would also be in that same range where it's like they hit hard, but maybe don't have the best armor.
Yeah.
The thing for me that this all comes down to is the pillage mechanic that we saw on the Ironborn Reavers central to the identity of the faction, or is pillage kind of like gang up in Free Folk, where it's like their base unit does something with it, and maybe there are some other things that are going to play with it, but like, will every unit in House Greyjoy have it where when they, are killing stuff, they get better? Or is it more spread out? Or do they have different abilities based on pillage tokens? Or is like pillage the same mechanic for everybody?
I guess we'll have to wait and see, but I would think that it probably is going to be something that we see kind of across the faction. Maybe not every unit has it, but probably something that would be very much a part of their identity.
And then that kind of brings us to the House Greyjoy Iron Bowman. So this was teased by Fabio Curry at the CMON Expo. He said there's a ranged unit, and then he kind of like walked it back. And then Michael Swinall was like 100% there's a ranged unit in the starter set. So these are them, the Ironborn Bowman. Going back to the sculpts look amazing, but going back to the idea of pillage, like, do you get pillaged on a ranged unit? Like, well, because like, pillage is like taking stuff, right? Like, I guess it's taking lives.
I could shoot you with an arrow and take your stuff.
That's true, I guess, but I don't know. So it's like, I'm just so excited. Like, that's what I want to know is like, how does pillage integrate with the faction? And is it just like bonuses to attack, or like, could you do like, I spend pillage to get like an extra arrow shot, or like, no, that's too powerful, but like bonuses to hit, or like I can spend it to move or do something.
Yeah. I like these quite a bit though. And I like that they're putting a ranged unit in a core box. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Combined arms or diversity of your forces, I think is really a good habit for players to get into, like thinking about when list building. I know Lockie Carter from Australia is a big proponent of that. And, I think it really just makes sense to be able to have a lot of threats, a lot of ways to deal with multiple threats and to threaten your opponent. And I think it's just a good philosophy to get into for playing, rather than like maybe trying to skew one way, like getting used to playing kind of all-comer based lists.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is one of those things too, where like when you get the starter set, you should really be playing like every possible permutation of like the faction, because like, you know what I mean? Like playing Baratheons, like the first thing I saw were like the Stag Knights were like looked really bad on paper, but I did want to try them out a couple times and just like see, what does it feel like on the battlefield? And it's like, it's sometimes you'll surprise yourself and you'll be like, wow, this unit is way better than I thought it was going to be. Sometimes you're like, oh.
Otherwise, like a paper tiger or something. Like, this is amazing. And you're like, oh, no, wait. Not so great.
Yeah.
And then we got the Greyjoy starter hero. So they actually spoiled now what's in the box. What's in the box? It's Asha Greyjoy, Victarion Greyjoy, Roderick Harlaw, and then Aeron Greyjoy. So Aeron
also known as Aeron Damphair, Asha Greyjoy, not Yara Greyjoy.
Yeah. Oh.
The weirdest thing about that was the reason they changed her name from Asha to Yara was because of the name Osha, that wildling that runs away with Rick and Bran. Like nobody knows that character's name. Just call her Asha. She's like she's a huge character.
And the thing is like the Game of Thrones already has so many similar names, but they're like, no.
Yeah, we have three.
Here's where we draw the line: Asha and Osha.
Yeah, it's not confusing for the Mountain to be played by three different actors, and for who's the guy they replaced that was Darius
Nahara. Yeah.
I mean, he looks
wait a second.
way different between one season, but of course, you gotta draw the line somewhere.
Yesterday, randomly, I was reading a thing about how they translated into other languages and how what a problem that was for Hodor. Spoiler in the show, when he has to say like, hold the door, hold the door, hold the door. But Hodor and hold the door are like totally different sounds in some languages.
Of course.
So they just have him saying it over and over again. And then it's just like, Formula Port or something. And you're like, what? That's not like, they like tried to just make him say something totally else. And it's like, oh, okay.
That's funny. They should have like revealed that to like the international audiences, like by like giving Hodor a different like sound like name.
Hold the door in my language. Yeah. So kind of an interesting moment there. So, maybe Asha doesn't go down as I guess they didn't change Hodor's name, but they were going to change Asha. So there was some complications there. Yeah. But so Roderick Harlaw is the deep cut on this group, I think.
Yeah.
So he is the Lord of the Ten Towers and head of House Harlaw. He loves to read. He's got his book there, and he's captain of the Sea Song, and he's known for reading in the bathroom. This is when right before the live stream community event, so they did their official broadcast and we did our community live stream. We were all like frantically Googling, Song of Ice and Fire wiki to be like, who the heck is that again? Like, I don't remember him. The worst thing is I don't even know where I had it. I made a chart of like the most obscure Greyjoys. And I was like, it's going to be one of these. Like there's a bunch of when Balon Greyjoy allegedly falls off the bridge and dies. At his funeral, they mention like 12 family members that like that's the only time they're like mentioned in the book.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's gonna be someone like that. It's gonna be one of those guys, but that's a future hero box.
Of course. They'll like Dagmar Clapjaw.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. And then we got, of course, Victarion Greyjoy.
Awesome.
Holy
That
crap.
best sculpt of the, so far what we talked about, this is the best one. So epic.
It's like Skeletor or something. He just looks.
Yes.
This might be one of the coolest. I mean, I hope his stats are good. And I'm going to say something that I may regret because I am a huge Free Folk fan. I think all the stuff is good, but I think Rattleshirt might be one of the coolest miniatures in the game. I don't play him that often, but this guy is like at Rattleshirt, and I should say the Lord of Bones to be respectful, because Rattleshirt was a diminutive name, right? Yeah, but the Lord of Bones, this guy is on that level of coolness.
Yeah,
I hope he's awesome.
He's got the right pose. He's got that, like, again, like sort of like a downward look with like the narrow eye slits that just look so menacing. Like,
yeah, tall. And also got the like "come at me, bro" thing right next to him, like arms open, like "come on."
He's like a foot taller than
man,
Harlaw.
Well, and now it could be that Asha and Roderick are more like Loras height, and he's just typical. But we never know. Low blow. All right, so that's the Greyjoy.
Pretty cool.
Are you interested in picking up Greyjoys? What do you think?
I would give him a go. I want to take a look at if it's different enough, then potentially for sure. From what
okay, because I'm thinking this might be my second faction that I play, because Free Folk gonna be my thing, but these guys, I mean, what I'm honestly scared is I'm gonna play them, and it's gonna be like playing Free Folk, but where I kill stuff. Right. Where I'm just like, oh, it's not me outnumbering and like dragging you down slowly, but it's about instead me like punching you hard, getting an advantage, and then like riding that advantage out.
Yeah. I think the Greyjoys are super interesting. They're an awesome faction. I liked playing them in the card game, in the board game, but I'm always like, first and foremost, I'm always about like the factions that I liked in the books and like in the show. And so I'm always like Stark and like the show version of the Greyjoys were pretty lame in comparison to the book version, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true.
They were kind of like, they didn't really do that much except for Euron. plot armor. Euron.
Oh dear, it just shows up everywhere.
It's like, I was honestly surprised. This story is getting a little long. Let's just kill all of them. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler. Hey, at this point, I think it's okay territory. But I was surprised, honestly, just knowing Michael Chanel, that when they showcased the dragons, that they didn't immediately showcase Euron, because I feel like he just shows up wherever the dragons are. I get they're doing it off the books, not the show, but
yes.
Oh my god! But you know what? I think Euron Greyjoy would be crazy in this game because he's so cool in the books.
Yeah,
he's going to magic
with that whole posse of like guys who've just seen the end of the world and like came back all crazy looking. Like he could be his own unit. There's your
Kingsguard style unit where you're just like, oh man,
everybody does something different.
I am the most interesting man, and this is my unit.
He'll have a guy who can blow a horn and then die.
Yeah,
just like
yes, exactly. Hey, are you kidding me? That might be the mechanic. They're like, once per game, like kill this guy and he blows the horn.
Blow a horn. One unit becomes vulnerable. One take a wound.
No, what I'm most excited about for House Greyjoy is I think this also will open up some more cool ideas for like more thematic games, right? And so that's somewhere where I think in the way COVID hit, we originally had those thematic campaigns, the Battle of the Whispering Woods, which is really cool. And then we didn't see a lot more of that, right? It's been 3 years. We haven't had as much. And then they came out with that mini campaign, right? That had the special units.
Yeah.
I know that's a beta version, and they kind of released it so that people could have something to do at home during COVID. It'd be really cool to see what maybe the Greyjoy piece of that might be, and maybe have some other sort of thematic scenarios come out, right? Because I think, not a lot of communities are necessarily up and running again, but when people really get back to playing this game more regularly, there's only, the competitive scene is great, but like, you're mostly playing with your friends at stores, et cetera, and they might not have a big tournament scene, right? Or you have to travel for that. Having some more cool scenarios would be cool now we have so many beta modes, but I mean like some thematic style ones that are, hit and run and take this thing, or I don't know.
Well, I think the other thing about tournament mode is it's like sort of self-limiting because by its nature, you're looking to take like the absolute most competitive version of that means sometimes you're not using specific units. Sometimes you're not using whole factions, depending on how dominant a particular.
And I know you were a big competitive X-Wing player, so I think this really speaks to some of your experiences.
Oh, totally. It's like, and the whole thing, like there was like this, when back in the X-Wing days, like there was this legend of how bad Boba Fett was in the game. You know what I mean? He was so awful. And it's like one of the most beloved characters in the entire universe, but I would rather take some no-name, pilot just because like the ship has better stats.
Right.
I want the Inquisitor from, the Clones TV show that I've never watched an episode of, as opposed to Boba Fett, and that's the kind of the same thing where it's like, you know what? Sometimes it's more fun to just say, I'm going to run like a list that's going to be like, I'm going to field like an actual like army that would be composed of stuff, like a mixed unit of Starks. Like I'm going to have Bowman. I'm going to have not just trying to take like the absolute meta crusher, like, then what you do too is sometimes you find out that like a unit's better than you thought.
Right. Well, the best thing is when when people do follow, like kind of chase a meta, and sometimes like playing off meta really hard.
Yes.
Can really crush a meta list, but I guess I'm just not really interested in that style of play. Like I don't net deck but I guess that's not, the game isn't really about winning. It's more about like hanging out and playing a fun game that's got a lot of like decision points and like, oh my gosh, and like, oh this, oh that.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes it's not even about like, okay, I definitely am going to take a list that's like purposely suboptimal, but like, just making it less about who wins, resolving a story, or,
right.
If you are playing that campaign, like, I think one way to really like juice it up would be to like impose some restrictions. Like, let's say you're Starks and you're fighting a campaign and now you're moving through different regions. So now you have to start to structure your army to like favor the, the Tullys because you're fighting in the South. And maybe now you're up north. So now you got the Umbers more. Like, you can kind of like self-impose some like list building restrictions, and that kind of forces you to like, be a little bit more creative and try some stuff out. And like at the same time, kind of evoke like a story of like what your army doing,
yeah,
like permadeath for characters, if you lose them on the field, maybe you roll, and if like 4, 5, or 6 they're dead forever.
Taimu, he's been on in the past, and he talks about running a campaign where if you lost a character in the game, you couldn't use him for one game. There was like you have to sit out a game with that character. Exactly. So it kind of forces you to play other options and experiment more. I was going to say this at the end, but at the end of the stream, Michael Chanel said something like super ominous, like he does, about how, you got to think bigger, guys, like something to the effect of like, playing the game in ways that like you haven't even have imagined yet. Or like something like, what does that mean? I think, well, I don't want to speculate, but obviously I do want to speculate, but I wondered, is he talking about some sort of like thematic way of playing? Like, having some other elements where there are more experience-based or territory or things like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what it could mean. Like,
I think between you and I, we have a pretty enormous collection. So we could probably make a lot of gigantic battles. I think you could start talking about like more than 2 players. You can talk about a campaign. You could talk about gaining experience. You know what I mean?
What about a deck building component where it's like you start with the campaign and you just have certain cards and you can add them in or something?
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
I don't know. You get like spend points to unlock, or like maybe your cards have like, maybe there's alternative like neutral cards that anyone can purchase or something and add to their deck. I don't know.
Or there's like, similar to like Arkham Horror, right? Like there's, let's say you start with the basic Stark deck and you have your commander or something, or you have a generic commander that's like level 1. He's got like crappy, like his extra cards are kind of crappy, but then like as he like gains experience and like you fight more battles, then you can like introduce a certain number of other cards that are like level 2 cards, similar to how like Arkham you can kind of like throw in like you take a card out and put a new card in. You sort of slowly like juice up your tactics deck as your guy like kind of learns the.
Oh, that could be interesting. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm hoping there'll be some. Well, I just hope there's some cool people speculating. I hope there's some speculation that sounds really cool. Like sometimes in people being like, could it be this? Could it be that? We just see like cool ideas. So
sure,
I'm hoping we see people run with that.
Well, and then there's no reason the community can't just like make up that. How hard would that be to implement? I don't think it's super hard at all.
Not that hard at all.
Especially if you're not really interested in like ultra balance. You know what I mean? If you're mostly focused on like a cool game, you can totally pull it off.
So if people are thinking about that, feel free to reach out to us and like maybe we can brainstorm some ideas, and it'd be really cool to see that develop. I don't know if that's what he's referencing. Who knows? But
and then he like stepped into a portal.
Yeah.
And warped into the underworld.
He threw his cloak up over his face and turned into bats and just evaporated. And then, so now we're getting up here to the big guns.
Oh, yeah.
So we've got the Targaryen Mother of Dragons miniatures. So there is a box set coming out in the future. We know is slated for release called the Mother of Dragons. And we get to see Daenerys and 3 juvenile dragons. I know we had one dragon, the middle one in the back. And I don't know if that's Drogon. He was revealed at CMON Expo. There wasn't anything like, I didn't know if it was going to be like just one model that came in a box or, this whole set is one box. I could see people maybe even buying like multiple sets of this to like display or like to paint up or use for like D&D games or something.
Well, and I wonder, I mean, is this going to cost as much as a regular box? Because it seems like there's a lot of stuff in there.
I don't know.
I don't know how, we don't really know how big.
Well, so the stone throwers are actually in a bigger box. It's like slightly thicker. And I wonder, is there a way, because Daenerys is pretty small.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe they're perfectly shaped in like that CMON puzzle way. They like fit in the box perfectly with like the little plastic thing on them.
Totally. With some overlap. Yeah.
Yeah. But, God, those look good.
Yes.
And they showed with this 3 stat cards, but we could only see really Drogon stats. But we do see that they each have a ranged and a melee and a 4+ armor. They each have movement of 6. They're all juvenile dragons, okay? And I think, and this isn't probably, like, this might be obvious, but they labeled it juvenile dragons, which makes me think we're going to have other types of dragons.
Yeah.
They're literally going to, you can print money with this. Just so juvenile dragons, they have 8 wounds and never make morale tests. This model ignores units and terrain while moving because of it's like flying. At the start of its activation, it makes a free maneuver action. Wow. So they're going to be a little bit hard to pin down.
I just thought of that second part. This model ignores units and terrain. That is so good considering what you're about to say.
Yeah. So their armor, you're going to armor offense. What do you?
I'm thinking you fly directly over a unit, land behind them, and then burn them alive.
So it's Blackfire ability. It's short range attack or a melee attack. It's got vicious. Does not make you roll to hit. It does D3 plus 3 wounds automatically, and one enemy within short range of that unit becomes panicked. This is heinous.
Yeah, I mean, just think about it. It's like it can use its free maneuver, like if you get close enough to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Free maneuver, soars right over one of your units, turns around, burns them up. You can't even countercharge.
And you're panicked, or someone nearby is panicked, or you're panicked. You got a vicious attack, so you're going to do.
And you're taking at least
a minimum rank down instantly. Yeah. Boom.
Yes.
Then you got to take your panic test.
Think about this against giants.
Oh, God.
Just vaporize them.
Now, the thing is, though, they got 4+ armor.
Yeah.
And 8 wounds. It's not like giants where it's like 2 hits equals 1 wound. Right. They aren't that tough.
No.
But they are the definition of like, I mean, I wouldn't say a glass cannon, but their damage is front loaded. Like,
I think they're a glass cannon. I think because if you get out of position with these, they'll die in one swing. You know, not all
a
the
charge
time,
of the reroll.
Like, a pretty decent attack with like you send in a pretty big unit against these guys. Like you can totally do 8 damage in a turn. I mean, that's a pretty huge attack, and there's no morale. But like,
God, especially you take the attack zone and like 2 attacks in a row. That's 2d3 plus 6 wounds. If you rolled 3s on those, or they failed their panic tests.
Yeah.
You just burned a unit down. Yeah. And on top of that, we saw 3 tactics cards for Daenerys Targaryen, Mother of Dragons. Fire Made Flesh, so we don't know what that is. Dragon's Flight, I'm assuming something to do with maneuvers.
Feels like it.
And then Dracarys. And Dracarys is when Daenerys' unit activates. One friendly Drogon, Rhaegal, or Victarion unit within short range may make a free attack action. So you could get, if you leave the melee attack zone open, you get 3 attacks off in a turn, in a round.
That's
with
guaranteed kill a unit of infantry.
So, and
it's nuts.
Do you think? I mean, I wonder how the points will work out. Is really what it is, because right now Targaryens have some expensive units.
Yeah.
Can you maybe field all 3 dragons, or is it literally like you show up to play with like your 3 dragons and Daenerys, and you're like, okay, boys, let's do this? Like.
Well, they got to have enough points for Daenerys to fit in a unit.
Yes, okay, that's a good point.
She has to be on the battlefield.
She is a battlefield commander, yeah.
Correct. So it's got to be. I mean, I don't know. What's the cheapest ground unit for Targaryens?
For neutrals, maybe some Stormcrow mercenaries.
No, but for Targaryens specifically, just the 9-point Swordmasters.
Yeah, the 9-point Swordmasters. But as Michael Chanel will often point out, Chase. You're a free folk player. You're forgetting the whole neutral faction. Michael Chanel, if you're listening, I'd like to know.
That was a solid impression. I will say
that was pretty good, right? I'm actually sitting in a dark corner with the lights turned out, waiting for someone to walk in the room and just, hello.
There's sort of like a chill in the room as soon as you said that.
There's frost on the window pane in the middle of the summer. Like, what's going on? I don't know if I'd want to put her in like Bolton Cutthroats or something, though.
No.
Maybe, actually, we have Blackguards, 6 points. That's a pretty tanky unit. But otherwise, drop and an Unsullied Swordmaster's like, she's going to be okay. No tokens getting put on you. Pretty good unit there. But like, that's a lot of points.
Yeah.
But even not like 3 of these units, you activate even if your opponent like charges your Unsullied Swordmasters, then activate your Drogon at attacks, activate your Rhaegar, just 1, 2, 3 activations. You're just melting things.
Well, and assuming these all have like similar abilities, we don't know what the other 2 dragons' attacks look like. I mean, I hope they're not all exactly the same.
Yeah. Oh, so okay, what does that next one say? Oh, Golden is the back one. Oh, Jade. Do you think they're all just colors?
Yeah.
JAD. So Jade Fire,
Golden Fire, Black Fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they probably have different attack profiles. Like, or I could totally be wrong, but they all have like the asterisk in their attacks. What's interesting is, so basically, it seems like you probably aren't rolling no matter what. I mean, maybe they're all the same.
No, it says so. Black Fire is the name of the ability.
Yeah.
So it's got to be Jade Fire. What would you think? It's like panicked, vulnerable, weakened.
Could be. I mean, how good is vulnerable to unit when you're dealing automatic wounds?
Oh, maybe you're right. I was just trying to think like, is it what would be 3 different things that are game effects? But I guess it doesn't have to be game effects. They can put whatever they want.
They could have a long range attack. You know what I mean? Like maybe one of them breaks fire further. It could be. One of them is better in close combat. You know what I mean? Like there's
one of them heals your units if you stand in its flames.
Yeah. Maybe it's like we don't know.
Maybe you're right. I don't know. Something crazy from the books that's not in the books though. I don't know. Yeah. One of them picks up a unit and moves it for you. You just use it to like portably transport stuff.
Yeah.
No, we're getting way out there. But maybe, who knows? I mean, that's the fun. Right now, it's Schrodinger's dragon, right? It could be. It could not be.
It could be anything.
We don't know what's inside the twisted mind of Michael Chanel and all those guys. Like,
we don't.
It could be nothing. You get the unit and it's just a blank spot, and it just says "ha ha ha." Like,
and you have to take all 3.
Yeah, exactly. Or like they have to activate one after another or something. Well, no, I wouldn't say that if it's not on this top one.
But I mean, baseline, if you're thinking like, let's assume that they're thinking that the person's going to be playing, Daenerys in a unit of the Swordmasters plus 3 of these dragons, like that seems pretty strong.
As a free folk player, I think this might be not as scary.
Oh no, free folk would jack this list all day long.
Like I'm used to my units getting melted, and honestly, D3 plus 3 wounds is about how much damage I'll be taking from most things. So it's like, go ahead, kill some raiders, and like
the vicious is gonna hurt too, though, against.
Oh, you're right. It will. I'm maybe being overly confident.
Yeah,
these things are going to definitely hurt.
That's going to be like 2.5 ranks every time they attack.
But I've taken like, Knights of Casterly Rocks with the mountain that rides into my flank, and like that hurts.
Yeah.
This will be up there too. The hard part is this is going to be the maneuverability. I guess trappers could start to ding them, but 8 wounds is still a lot. Even if I did roll 3.
Trappers would be rough. Yeah.
But like, even if I roll 3, it's still, you're still going to be melting a lot of stuff down.
I think the trick is really the maneuverability. They're going to have a free maneuver, which they can just go through a unit if they want to, right?
Baratheons are going to get hurt the most by this, you think?
Baratheons are going to get roasted. What do they do? Like their maneuverability sucks so bad anyway. It's like
those Knights of the Stag being like, we're moving our 4-inch maneuver, and then we march 8. Like,
I mean, you're gonna have to pull off your counterattacks like really successfully.
Well, you just stop, right? I just maneuver over, fly over really close, and be like, either I fly out of your arc, or I just stop and like be like, bye.
You'll just have to like stack your units up so that's not possible somehow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you'll have to like be in like a block formation and have like counter charges available so that if you do the trick where you fly over somebody and land behind them, that like I've got somebody like a tray's distance behind that to be able to just charge immediately in the rear. You know, like there's.
Oh, I'm excited to try this out though, or have you try?
Yeah.
Like, I want like you know, I can add it. I'm definitely gonna pick it up, and I'm sure you'll have some too. But like, set up, you know, I just want to like run multiple armies into them and be like, okay, now I'm gonna try Starks. Like, what happens? Like, okay, now I want to try my free folk. Like, what happens? Like, what do these dragons do?
We'll have to stress test them for sure.
It's like one of those like battle simulator games where like, what would 300 Spartans do against 10,000 samurai? Like, let's see. Like, I just want to see how does this play out.
Like that was a super accurate battle simulator.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you just like run all these crazy like factions.
Like one Jedi versus a dragon. All right, and then of course, since I picked the show order, we'll end with Free Folk War Mammoths. Oh my God, this is insane. I've been so excited about this for like multiple days now, even leading up to this recording. So, I mean, it was, and when it was revealed on camera, and I said this already, it was like a triple threat where we got Free Folk Mammoths, and then I'm trying to find the exact quote here. I wrote it down. So Fabio said, these are hard to control on the battlefield. So they can stomp and trample opponents, but be careful. These are also giant dumb beasts and things can go south. And we know free folk don't like going south. So it was Giants reveal, and Fabio made a ridiculous pun. And then I got to see Michael Chanel's like facial expressions responding to Fabio's puns. It was just like three of the best things all in a row. So
these are
so hard to control.
Yeah. So what are they going to have? Some like randomized reaction to morale or something, or getting too many wounds? They're going to run away, smush stuff on the way out.
Yeah, and so they can stomp and trample opponents. I wonder if those are like the names of its attacks. In the books, I think they talked about how like the giants are the ones that like tend and herd the mammoths.
Yeah.
Like I wonder if there's some sort of like if you have to stay within like a zone of control, or they do random stuff, or maybe if they take enough wounds, they behave erratically.
I could see that. Or like, you know, they like get hit with like, because like in the show at least, right? They got hit with fire and ran. Remember?
Oh yeah.
So they do something like that, like where like they take enough damage, so like these bolts, you know, they get spooked and run.
But these are on siege trays. Like these are huge.
Yes, I honestly want to set up a game where we just do like a crazy huge, I don't know, like a 200-point game on like a 6-foot long table of just like a giant free folk versus Starks.
Let's do it. So we have John Davis, Patreon supporter. Thank you so much, man. Or John Davis, longtime supporter. Thank you so much, man. He just did, I think, 100 points versus 100 points of Targaryens versus Starks.
Awesome.
And it looked like the scene in season 8 where like the Targaryen riders just like all ride off to their death. I don't know who won the battle. Maybe that's what happened.
Yeah.
But, one of the hard things when you're playing 100 points, like there's not a lot of room for flanks.
You got to go with like a bigger table.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think he had a longer table. But I mean, like even that, like you have a battle line. And so like you're riding your cavalry across the table. Like there's only the things on the end that you can really get if you're not, if they're positioning carefully. So
you got to take the range units then,
Yeah.
You got to start using.
When it's safe to get together and start playing, we're going to have to do some sort of giant game like that.
I think we do like an 8x8 table and have like just an enormous, like just like bring everything.
That would be ridiculous. Well, maybe I'll do that. Take some pictures. That'd be so much fun. And then, hopefully soon we'll have some mammoth stomping on stuff. And the sculpts, they've got like these bags with like, and I think Chanel on stream, or maybe it was after stream, but everyone was like, what are those? Are those like giant spears or what are those? And they're just decorative spears, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Like somebody could conceivably grab them and throw them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But man, those look amazing. And so I'm hoping whatever it is that it does a good job of trampling scary units like Rose Knights or even, annoying things like guardsmen. I'm just like, how long am I going to have to hit them till they disappear? Like,
right. Well, one day when I can actually buy Rose Knights, then I will let you know and we can battle it.
Well, this is kind of a weird turn here. I've been super excited. The Gencon stuff is awesome, guys. I hope everyone is as jazzed as I am. Someone actually posted in the Facebook group that they saw some of this stuff is going up for sale on Walmart. Yeah. And I looked on the site and there were some third-party sellers, and then it seemed like Walmart is just shipping them as well. I don't know what that means. Does that mean that Walmart as a store would carry this game? And would that be good for the game or bad if that happened?
I don't know. I mean, it seems like they carry some CMON stuff, but I also know that like Walmart's been acting as like a storefront for similar to like Amazon, like for like, third party sellers and stuff like that. They can like list things on the Walmart website and sell them
So
through
maybe
there.
it's just them selling stuff like Amazon then. Because I
Yeah.
mean,
I would be shocked if Walmart, like, because they like, their shelf space is at such a premium that it's like so hard to like, for something as big as like a, Song of Ice and Fire starter to be there. But like looking at the Walmart website under Simon alone, they've got like tons of stuff. They've got all this like zombicide stuff. They've got rum and bone stuff. So it's like a lot of like, I wonder if this is really like, I don't think you actually store.
Okay. Because I feel like that would be, there was someone who posted about it. I didn't see all I'm assuming the thread like exploded on Facebook, but it was like a kind of really conflicting moment because I was like, oh, like what could be worse for like mom and pop stores, right? Because a lot of those stores don't have websites, right? Some of the bigger chain or larger stores like have online sales stores. But what about the small mom and pop stuff where you go in and they're going to like help you pick a game because they have experience in gaming and they know what might be good for your values or your interests. And so that's like horrible for those communities. And yet like maybe Walmart doesn't compete with them at all. Like maybe people who are going to buy stuff at Walmart walking by, like they might have never walked into a gaming store anyway. And maybe it's just good to get the game out there into more hands. Totally. I don't know.
I think the stuff that is available, I think it's actually cool. Like a lot of like places like, Target and stuff, they have like a little bit, or Barnes and Noble,
Barnes and Noble, the X-Wing stuff. I remember when I get my teacher discount, I could be like, oh crap, do I get this thing or do I go to Barnes and Noble and be like, I'll take a discount on this for educational purposes?
Now, and it's like,
but that's also like not supporting the mom and pop store. Like it's just like this conflicting thing,
Yeah, but the thing is like there's still a ton like it's obvious to us because we've been around this for so long, but like there's still tons and tons of people that have like no idea what's out there for tabletop. So like, them walking by and saying like, oh, Clue or Monopoly, this is something kind of cool. Like, what is this? And then they're like, there's this whole giant section of, at this point, much better games. There's so much cool stuff out there that they can like try out. Like they have those new escape rooms in a box. If you do like Unlock or Escape, there's tons of really unique things that like, you wouldn't have found otherwise.
So maybe not a sky is falling situation. Although I remember there were times with the X-Wing when it was like, I didn't really buy a lot of ships from Barnes and Noble, actually, now that I think of it, but I did buy, I think they were Y-Wings. Mm-hmm. I remember there was a time when I was just like, I can't seem to get this ship anywhere.
Yeah.
Then I went to Barnes and Noble and I'm like, oh, they just have them like here in like a bin. Like, I was like, okay, like, here we go. Like, I just get them here.
Sometimes it's cool. Like you get some stuff that's like out of print everywhere else, but like people don't really go there to seek it out. You know what I mean? Like there's a thing in like Magic, for example, where if a product is done really, really well, a lot of mom and pop stores will actually mark it up. They'll like kind of like jack up the price because they know that people will pay it, right? So there was like this case where they had these mystery booster boxes, and they were supposed to retail for like maybe $100, 110. And then stores were selling them for like 200 because people had just went crazy on buying them. But like if you went to like a Target or a Walmart, not that they sell booster boxes, but if you go there and buy like Commander decks, for example, they're always retail. They don't know or have any care in the world that like this is selling more than normal,
Yeah.
But like there was a Commander deck that was worth like $40, so of course that's the one everybody bought, and then stores started noticing and jacked up the price of just that one deck by like $10, right? So like, Target and Walmart don't have that insight into it. So I think it's like, obviously support your friendly local game store. If you could spend a couple extra bucks there and like, and have a place to play, that's a million times better than buying at a Walmart. But I don't think it's like pure evil. I think there's actually another side to the coin where it does expose more people to the hobby who like don't encounter it, on their own.
Because I guess if you're going to want to play that, I mean, a lot of people just play at home. And that's what's so great about this game is it doesn't have to be a store game. You can play it on your kitchen table. It's a super casual game and that you can just open up and just jump in. Yeah. But at the same time, it is also a game that is played in gaming clubs and stores. So maybe them seeing it, picking it up, then they'll end up going and becoming part of a local community so they can play with other people.
Right.
Be a unifying factor.
Like, would you rather play? I mean, you have a good setup at your house, but like, let's just say like you didn't have all that terrain and stuff. But like, Would you rather play at a place like Mythicos, or would you rather play like on a coffee can represents
Oh,
like the
right. Yeah.
smokestack
Obviously
and
play
like
at like a real store. Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, of
And that's
course.
why, I also drive all the way out to Sargis Comics too. It's like
Yes,
partially that because like, it's in New London, Connecticut. It's like got, in a city, it's got a modest space because it's like space is a premium there. But it's
yeah,
also like, the community there too,
oh
right? Where it's
totally.
like, it's not just me having one or two people over. You can go there and it'd be like 10, 15 people playing games. And, that's a different sort of energy.
Yeah, 100%. Same here. We have a great store in Milford called Hawkwood Games. It's just like it's more of a magic shop,
Oh,
but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's a great place, like with like a ton of players, and it's one of those things where you pay $5, you play there all night long, you get a cup of coffee or whatever, maybe a beer, and you're like just hanging out, and you get to play with a whole bunch of different people. Kind of cool. As they're definitely still very much a need for them.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. We had to meet up there sometime because I've only been there once, and I actually played a Song of Ice and Fire there.
Really?
We went and took like their biggest table spot, and it's like us, it's kind of a smaller place. We'd like sign up for a table.
It definitely is. Yeah.
And we just like took over this whole thing, and I was like, oh, I feel like such a jerk. As like more people started coming in, I'm like, there's like 8 or 9 people like spread out on these bigger tables, and I've got like me and one person with a spot. But luckily, Song of Ice and Fire is also a pretty quick game, so that wasn't so
100%.
bad. But.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like that one. It's not like a really like a war game store. I mean, like they have people who play it and they sell some of that stuff, but it's not like a big it's not like a Games Workshop place or anything like that. Like not like Portal or some of the other places in Connecticut or Sarge's,
Yeah, Dragon's Lair. Things. Yep. I don't know. So I mean, it's interesting. I think the game's exploding, and even though COVID-19, like we haven't been able to get games in because social distancing, like the game's still doing really well, and I think we're going to emerge from this period in an awesome spot. Mm-hmm. And I think Gencon just reaffirms that. I do want to address a criticism. So there were some people that were really disappointed that there was only a bunch of alt sculpt reveals.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that we had like dragons and mammoths and Greyjoy reveals. I do think, in past years they had like, an early release of Baratheons with like shipped out a limited number of boxes so that people could get a hold of them early. But this is a really, I think this is unusual times. And what do you really expect them to do on a virtual stage like this? Production lines have been hampered. I think, in my book, like this is like, I thought this was a great Gen Con reveal, and could they have done more? Sure, but I think this is enough. And I think we've got so much stuff coming down the line. It's a good time to be in a Song of Ice and Fire player, and I'm just excited for where things are going.
Yeah, I mean, you have to remember too, it's like probably relative to the size of the game, like they're probably not able to put out an equal number of units for every faction as they keep adding factions, right? Because that just becomes exponentially harder to do.
Right.
When you have 2 factions, it's not that hard to put out, 2 different units for a faction within a year. But then if you have 10 factions, now you have to, you have to design 2 for each of those. It's really, really challenging.
What do you think the ideal release schedule is? Like, what are some release schedules that you are used to in other games? Like, as it kind of moves towards a quarterly approach, is that a good thing, a bad thing? You're like, that's not fast enough.
I think it depends on who you ask. I mean, I think X-Wing was, their waves were, twice a year, 3 times a year at the most, especially early on. Like, it took time for them to develop additional ships. I think what's good about that is it does give them time for, the stuff to develop. So they have a little bit of like, lead time, make sure that the supply chain is strong enough to support everything. They have like a good, like predictable, sort of like pre-order season. You know what I mean? I think that's something that's really, it can be very frustrating to people to like have like a rough estimate of like when something's due to come out and then like it gets missed. But like, obviously COVID being what it is, that screwed up everything. But I do think that that's something that it's not limited to CMON. FFG is also horrible at.
But CMON gets so much hate because when they switched distributors early on, when like things really exploded, and they're like, oh my gosh, like we're switching distributors, we're gonna make this better, and there was that delay, like that stigma never got through.
Well, I feel like European still has been a problem.
Yeah,
people who in Europe like trying to like get has also been a challenge.
But Asmodee was like a French company or something.
If you really want to enjoy the game, but everything's got to print forever, I could see that being like exhausting and annoying, right? Like if you just can't get a hold of stuff, or it's getting marked up like crazy because it's out, like it's because it's like hard to find. That's also annoying. I don't think. I mean, that has been my experience, but also like in the US, I don't think distribution has been as bad for us, and especially if you pre-order things. But there is a cycle where if you miss the pre-order and it sells out, it takes a while for them to be stocked again. So I don't know, like that's a good reason. Like kind of like if you are interested in the unit, make sure you buy in advance.
Right.
If
That drums up some interest too, right? You're like, oh man, I want to get this new thing because it might be a little while to the second wave of it. That's a kind of like, this might be taken the wrong way, but like it's kind of a good problem. It's like, we sold out of like all our Night's Watch starter sets. Like we got to do another print run, and it's like, yes, good. If they're selling out, like that means the game's growing and it's really popular.
Right. Well, because like overprinting is a massive amount of work for a company because you know what I mean. If they order twice as many as they need, not only does it cost them money to produce, but then also like to warehouse all the copies of the box that nobody needs. And so and then the problem is if you under order, then what ends up happening is you just like you sell out and like your supply chain is like months behind, right? Because you're producing in Asia, it's got to come over on a cargo ship, and like that takes months, right?
So, quarantine and
if you ever listened to Team Covenant, they did an episode back when like the game Wingspan came out, talking all about how difficult it is to properly anticipate like how many games you should order, and like how there's the whole system, like from retailers to wholesalers to the publishers, is like a really tough system to get into and to predict accurately.
Those guys just did a live stream of A Song of Ice and Fire, the miniatures game.
I know.
So it'd be great to connect with them and hear what they think about the game.
I hope they liked it. I wish I didn't get a chance to see.
Yeah, no, there was a strong community support. It got a little touch and go there when people were jumping in, being like, people kind of like opened the box and they had maybe read the rules and were just playing for the first time, and people were saying like, "Oh, that's errated," or "Change that," or this, and I was like, "Oh gosh," like it's sort of like getting in the way of them being able to play the game. But I think we just have a very like excited community. Like we're very enthusiastic.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the thing. It's like our game still hasn't gotten a ton of mainstream heat. I think it's like board gaming in space, and like I think it is like one of those hidden gems where when people do like actually sit down and play it, it's like, wow, this is awesome. Based on like one of the strongest IPs in the world, literally. So I think there's no reason why it shouldn't be like crazy wildly popular. I think it's just one of those things where I think it just needs more battle reports, like high quality produced battle reports. Like I've told you, Chase, I've been watching those 40K in 40 minutes. I don't even play 40K. I haven't played 40K since I was a kid, but it's one of those things where they do such an incredible job. That game takes like 3 hours and the whole thing is done in 40 minutes. But like people who take the time to like put stuff out like that, where it like plays the game like in a really, I think like that, like game nights for Magic, like there's some really content producers.
And I think Sunday Slaughter is a YouTube channel that's kind of doing that. Like, so Chris is a great videographer. So getting more content like that is key. And I think, the high quality content is absolutely 100% a must. Yeah. But everybody out there, guys, you all have cameras, you have phones, you can post things. Like the more this game gets talked about, the better. Yeah. Just we want people to be aware, and like, it's really on the player base to do that in a lot of ways. Like place where people can see.
I think it's just tough right now because even like a content producer, people can't really get together to like play games to film it. You know what I mean? Right. So it's one of those things where it is a challenge, but I don't know. I think that's something that would kind of push us to that next level. I think Astral Guerrilla Games has done some pretty good battle reports as well.
Oh yeah, and I think he was saying, so he was on the community stream. I think they're opening up. They're going into phase 3. He's out above Toronto. It's a little bit more isolated, and so I think he was saying this week is like their first time that they're getting people together to like start playing some more battle reports.
Oh, nice.
With like proper precautions in place, but like they're back to in-person gaming, so it's like he's still been churning out stuff, but like it'll be nice to see it get back into the sort of full swing.
Yeah.
But this sort of gotten off in a weird direction, but it was great to catch up and talk about it, man. Yeah, I'm so excited to get back to gaming. So hopefully things start to really go well, and COVID starts to clear up, or there's a way that we can get the game in person. I know some people though are back to like with certain distances, etc. Maybe this area will be like that soon. I think people should be excited, be pumped. This is a good time to be a gamer, a Song of Ice and Fire gamer, even if it's hard times. Like the game you guys love is doing well. We got cool Gen Con stuff. We know all this cool stuff is coming down the line. Chanel's leaving cryptic messages about something big coming, so we'll see what that is. So, stay excited, guys. And in the meantime, we hope you get your miniatures on the table.